Wow, what a day, what a week, what a summer. But things are going good, I guess. So thank you all for joining. This one, I promise you, will be a rude awakening and tons of details and information that you will not find anywhere else on the internet. I did a poll last night to Patreon. We had 7,170 votes. And those votes were very concerning for me. And this video is addressing that, how people, what they're worried about for retirement, how they can prepare for retirement, the reality of where we are with retirement in the world, data from everywhere from South Korea to United Kingdom, Germany, US, etc. And believe me, US is a mess. But there's other places that are actually worse. So don't want to alarm anybody, but this will be good. I'll also go into all the responses and pull out the big top 10 concerns for the community and a very detailed analytical response as to where people are. And also a couple of other case studies around how people have made it and what their secret was. So let's jump in. Whoops, didn't want to do that. Back. Hit the wrong clicker on the wrong screen. But hey, that's just me. All right, so here we are. Let's go. And of course, this is not investment advice. And if you want to really amplify your intelligence, you know to subscribe to this channel. So first of all, the big kind of motivator for me was this Wall Street Journal article that came out a few days ago. And it said that in the USA, half of families, I will stress it again, half families have $0 saved for retirement. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. This was alarming to me. Half Americans have no retirement savings. So I was compelled to delve into how real this situation is and poll the community, etc. And I wanted to gauge the community's preparedness, the concerns, and the findings will be revealed towards the end of this video, as well as a ton of other stuff. This is going to take a while, but it's probably the most important video I've ever made. So let's go. Tons of valuable insights for all of those who want to plan for retirement. I know many of you do as well, right here, and I see you in the chat too. All right, first of all, let's talk about some of the global stuff that's going on. Let's talk about retirement ages in the G20. And this is kind of interesting. It's good for those in Indonesia. The average retirement age in Indonesia is 58 years of age. Bad news in Italy at 67. That means there's many people in Italy working in their 70s. Okay, US 66.3 years. Brazil 65. Saudi Arabia 60. India 60. China 60. You know, I always thought that would be a little bit different in those worlds. But the places are supposed to be the most, advanced economies. The people are working the longest. So maybe people enjoy working, but we'll dig more into that too as well. Let's talk about part of the problem as well that we have is global life expectancy is on the rise despite people thinking this was different, but this is from the United Nations and life expectancy has been rising consistently for decades. And there was a little setback in early 2020 for some cohorts, but you don't even see it here on this chart. And globally, life expectancy increased by more than 6 years. And that is huge between the year 2000 and the year 2019, from 66 years of age to about 73.4 years in 2019. And it's even higher now. It is now nearly above 74 years of age. So that is the average life expectancy. Many people alive today will make it to 100 plus. And that is stunning. And we're going to dig into some of the challenges about that as well as we go forward. So let's go into some more statistics. 1 in 5 in the United States, and it's worse in other countries in the world, will be over 65 in 7 years. That means 20% will be over 65. And they all need to be supported by the people between the age of, say, 20 and 65 to support them to work. The question is, are they going to be able to do that? Also, the other problem is the longer you live, that costs an awful lot more. This is a simple little illustration of the irony of an extended, healthier retirement is you'll need a lot more money socked away to cover higher overall costs for healthcare. Like if you are years in retirement between, say, 10 years in retirement, you need about $50,000 for healthcare costs. If you are 30 years in retirement, you need $318,000. And that is because as people age, healthcare expenses increase due to the likelihood of health issues, necessitating medical treatments, medications, doctor visits, chronic conditions, specialized care, you name it, long-term care services, assisted living, nursing homes. And this gets more and more expensive as time goes on. Prescription drugs can also be extremely expensive. So living longer extends retirement duration, and it explodes the cost of that duration too as we age, ladies and gentlemen. And this was apparent actually in the survey yesterday, and I wasn't acutely aware of it until now. So, and healthcare cost is a real issue. This is from CNBC. 37% of adults 65 plus are concerned they will not be able to pay for needed healthcare services in the next 12 months. And I think it's probably a lot higher than 37%. A lot of people that are in dire straits aren't taking these CNBC surveys. And that is a big concern. I'd say it's at least half, just like we mentioned at the beginning. There's another problem too, and that is we are outliving our ability to pay for our retirement. One analysis found that men live 8.3 years longer than their expected retirement funds can pay for, and women live 10.9 years longer. And younger generations aren't faring any better. About 25% of non-retired adults in the United States have no retirement savings whatsoever. It's, again, you'll see as well, it's actually a lot higher than that. And a lot of people don't have access or consistent access to employer-sponsored retirement plans. I've always spoken about things like the gig economy. We'll talk more about that too and how that impacts the ability for people to save up for retiring. Now, we're going to go through a whole bunch of data, but this is very, very important so you can set your own expectations as we go forward and see how you benchmark against other cohorts. So this is the average household retirement savings by age. Less than 35 years of age have less than $35,000. You can't make these numbers up. 35 to 44 have about 135,000. 45 to 54 have over $250,000. And then you have 55 to 64, just over 400,000, and 65 and older have just over 400,000 as well. But this is how prepared some people are. Remember, this is the average balance, and it's skewed by people that have millions and millions, bringing up the total average. So in reality, if you were to spot the median, it's not that good. Then people are banking on things like Social Security and other pension schemes around the world. I'm just using a lot of American data, but it's actually worse in other places. Thank you, Moto. But the average Social Security benefit is $1,825 per month right now. But inflation has ravaged this. You know, the Fed and stuff, they say inflation is now 5%. It was 7%, it was 8%. But you look at what $100 will buy you in groceries. A year ago versus today, has not gone up 5%. It's gone up 20%. Go to a restaurant, go to a bar, look at the price of anything. You know, there's a place we used to go very close to us where a certain meal was $17, then it was $19, then it's $21, then it's $23. Every week it goes up by $2, and it's a substantial jump. Anywho, programs will be squeezed. That is a reality as well. And I'm frequently told by many young adults, etc., that they are doubtful Social Security will ever have enough money to ever pay them a monthly check. And it simply won't be around. You know, they're paying into it and it simply won't be there. And are they right or wrong? Well, last time I shared this, it caused a lot of consternation. The fact of the matter is Social Security and pension programs are going to become insolvent. This is a chart that believes the Social Security will be out of money by 2035, but it won't, because the governments can print money and refund it. But that just increases the inflation problem and the debasement of what you have. And it's a spiral, a really bad, nasty spiral. Let's look at the average household health expenses by age. As I mentioned, the older you get, the more these things go up. And you can see it does explode. If you are under 25, you spend about $1,367 a year on drugs and medical supplies, medical services, and health insurance. And then it goes to $3,400, then to $5,000, then to $5,600, then over $6,000 a year if you're 55 to 64. I don't know where they're buying that health insurance for under $500 a month. I certainly can't find it. And 65 plus, over 7,000. In reality, it's very hard for people to get proper health insurance without spending an awful lot of money. And when it comes to drugs, that's bonkers too. All right, let's look at median household net worth by age group. Remember that the median is sometimes skewed. It's kind of like the middle point if everything is laid out, but there can be outliers that really modify this. So less than 35, median household net worth is 13,900. That is staggering. That is all the net worth that people, the median of people in the US have. 35 to 44 is 91,000, and it goes up to just over $250,000 for those 65 plus. The question is, will $250,000 cut it? And that's the big point. People think, well, if I can save up a retirement account with $250,000, that's going to do me for the next 30 years. Well, this is about to be a little bit of a harsh wake-up call unless you find a way to really reduce your cost of living. So I went through a lot of numbers, but I put them all together in a little table to summarize where we are. And again, this is literally, when you look at these numbers, and if you're in a different part of the world, it's worse where you are. Medical might be cheaper, but other things are kind of worse. So average household retirement savings account balance for 65 plus is $407,000. Average Social Security benefit is $1,800 a month. Average health expenses for those 65 plus is over $7,000 a month, probably a lot more. Through an average time spent watching TV every day for Americans is 65 plus. I don't know how they do that, 4.5 hours. Median net worth 65 to 44 is $266K. Average net worth people 65 to 74 is $1.217 million. Median net worth for people 75 plus is $254, and average net worth for people 75 plus is $977K, just shy of $1 million. And I've always been very interested in statistics and data to know where I stand and rank, and I find that as a very important guide. But let's go and look at some more stunning statistics. Here we're going to look at how the US compares to the rest of the world. And sometimes we say the US dollar is the cleanest shirt in the laundry, but this is the median annual disposable income of people over 65 as of October 2022, and values converted to October 11, 2022. Of course, this is going to be probably a lot less now because of the impact of inflation, etc. But you can see the US on average has about 34K in median annual disposable income over 65. Canada has about 28K. France has about $20,000 worth. Germany, less than France, about 19.8. Then Netherlands, same thing, a little less than Germany, around 19.7. Then you have the United Kingdom, around $18,000 a year. And Japan, shockingly, just over $13,300. I thought the Japanese were way better set because they're staunch savers. But that's part of the problem. When you stick all your money in your yen and your yen debases like crazy, you're smashed. And by the way, that number for Japan is a lot worse now because the yen has fallen about 30% against the dollar over the last 2 years. Therefore, it's disaster. Let's look at some other interesting stats. This is global labor force participation rates of where people are in different parts of the world. And a big shout out to anybody in Belgium. Only 2.8% of people over 65 in Belgium work. The rest are not working, which is awesome. The blue is labor participation 55 to 64. Red is labor participation over 65. And I was stunned, just like the Japanese numbers before, I was stunned to see the South Korean numbers here, that 37.5% of people above the age of 65 are still working. And then you can see all the other countries as well, all across the charts there. Again, not because they want to, but because they have to make ends meet. And that's the big problem. Now, I did hint at this before. This is the gig economy, the impact on people saving for retirement. If you are a contract worker or in the gig economy, you can see here 8 million people working gig jobs in the US and 7 million do in Europe. And that is also very big. People who are gig workers, contract workers, factory workers sometimes have zero pension plans at all. So they have to rely on themselves to save. And as we saw at the beginning, most people actually don't save anything, which is a huge concern. Speaking of savings, this is the excess savings are almost depleted. And unlike previous recessions, the pandemic triggered a huge buildup because nobody could go out. Nobody could go to restaurants or anything else. So there was a lot of savings. But that has almost been depleted. 190 billion is still there in the economy, but it's anticipated that these excess savings will likely run out in the current quarter, that is Q3 2023, as per the data in this. So basically, people are spending, people are borrowing like there's no tomorrow. They are not saving for retirement by no stretch of the imagination. Now, let's switch gears and talk about some case studies as to what $5 million will get you approximately. And this is information from the Wall Street Journal, real life people. And I thought it was interesting to look at their cases and what made them successful. And maybe you guys can pry out some key nuggets for your own experience. So first of all, 65-year-old Paul Shemwell has a savings of $6.1 million. He spends about $144K a year. And he has casual hobbies, skiing, scuba diving, tennis. And he is in 95% stocks. Okay, that is big. Also, what's cool is he has real estate. He has about $350,000 in a mortgage, which he financed, like me, under 3% and locked in. And he's not paying that off. And that is brilliant financial strategy. Not only being heavy in stocks to make it ahead, but also have mortgage. Don't pay that down. Don't be any rush. If you can borrow money at 3% and you know the half-life of money is 10 years, why rush to pay it down? And you'll see that these folks are very, very clever from a retirement and financial planning standpoint. So that's Paul. And next we have the Myers. We have Jay and Anita. They retired young, 61 and 60. Now, they did a couple of cool things. They have $4.2 million in retirement savings. But the real secret was not just funds, but I can't remember if it was Jay or Anita, but they bought Home Depot stock at about $3 about 20 years ago, and they held it. Okay, that was life-changing for this couple. They also have mortgages at low interest rates, etc. That's kind of a common theme. But that Home Depot share was very, very clever, and the importance of getting in early, getting in hard, and holding for a long period of time can be life-changing, with stock splits, dividends, and everything else. So that's been very important to the Myers. Next is Dr. Hwu. He only has $1.5 million, but he has a lot of real estate. He has a house worth $1.5 million. He owns a second house worth $1.2 that he rents out for nearly $4,000 a month. He owes $500,000 in each house, but he has them also financed under 3% fixed. This is so important here, everybody. All of these, they all have this common thread. They borrow money, finance it at a low rate, and pay it back slowly. Is genius. Now, also, Who invests almost all of his $1.5 million in his retirement accounts in stocks: Apple, Microsoft, and Nvidia. And we know Nvidia has made him a ton of money. So that is also huge. So you see the pattern here. They're not in the bogle index funds or mutual funds or stuff like that. They're controlling their own destiny with rental units and low mortgage rates and disruptive stocks and holding for a long period of time. Next is the final group, the Freys. They are 80 and 75 years old. There's an interesting story. The Freys, Bob was very entrepreneurial. He is a West Point grad, was in the army, was in Vietnam. He's a hero. After the army, he got his the army group, I can't remember, to pay for his education. He became a vet, and he set up 3 veterinary practices, sold 2 of them, and now he has over $6 million. And again, they have a lot of stuff. He receives a military pension of $60,000 a year. He receives $14,000 in disability because he lost hearing from Vietnam. And they also collect about $56,000 combined in Social Security benefits. And they have a truckload of money from building businesses and selling business. That entrepreneurial spirit paid off very well for them too. So there are 4 kind of examples, and you can see how all of this kind of helps. You don't hear much about people kind of making it, building a $6 million bag by just collecting a paycheck. No, they all do something different. So that's what I want to stress here. And in summary as well, even though it looks bad, this is the average of these four, is $3.85 million, but they live relatively simple lifestyles. But they have huge savings, and they made them by investing and having businesses and being entrepreneurial and locking in low mortgage rates, etc. And they all live in different parts of the country. So just want to share that there's a lot of learnings from those guys. In addition, let's talk about some gender deltas. There is, in researching this, I was shocked to see some of the big differences between women and men. Now, women typically retire 2 years earlier than men. Average age for men is 65. Average age for women is 63. Women have 40% less in retirement savings than men. Average for men is 90,000. Women is 62,000. And 6% more men participate in retirement plans. That is 61% versus 55%. So there is a big difference out there between men and women, sadly. Hopefully that gap will close in the very near future. So let's talk about big cities and the difference in cost of living. I always stress, if you are planning a retirement, think about going to a place that is safe, secure, good weather, low real estate costs, and of course, decent taxes. But this is a cool graphic as well of how long $1 million would last in retirement in big cities. And you can see that if you want to live in Memphis, Tennessee, you can survive 45 years on $1 million. But if you go to Chicago, Illinois, that's going to go to about 26 years. So you can see the big difference on where you actually choose to live and the impact that can have on your retirement as well. And that's one of the questions that we had in our poll. We did a poll last night. I was blown away by the responses, but this was an incredible poll. And I thank everybody as well for everybody who voted in the poll. And if you haven't joined us, do, because this is a very special Patreon community for sure. So first of all, we had 7,170 votes in about 18 hours. And I wanted to break it down as to what the biggest concerns were. And it's a bit of an eye chart here in this pie chart, but the biggest worry was 18.2% were worried they don't have enough. And then 12% don't have a plan. Some people do plan to move to a cheaper place, etc. But let's look at another visual of this. And really, I color coded it to make it easier to understand. And red means it's a concern. Blue is kind of okay. And green means you're set. So the vast majority of all the unique poll respondents, 44.75%, were worried they don't have enough to retire on. 29.46% feel they don't have a plan. And I've been focusing very hard on helping people build plans. We'll talk more about one of those towards the end of this video too. Third is, I will not be able to retire when I want, 26.58%. And the other red one, I colored red because it does involve a move, and moves are always risky, but 14.47% plan to move to a cheaper place. Now, and the good news on the green side, 10.26% of you have a detailed plan. 13.7% of you are very confident you can execute that plan. And 5.2%, your bags are packed based on you have enough whatever assets to get to where you need to be. And the fourth one there, 10.5% of you have multiple sources of income. That is so important, and I've always stressed that in what I call the three-legged stool. Have rental properties, have some consulting arrangement on the side, have maybe a franchise, have different sources of income. Don't be dependent on one source as you go forward. And that can be life-changing, especially if one of those sources of income can cover all your life expenses. Then you can take on a lot more risk in life too. Now, the rest, 22.78% plan to retire 5 years from now, 26.79% plan to retire 10 years from now, and 13.8% of you plan to retire 15 years from now. Remember, the world will be very different 10 years from now in every perspective. And in terms of time to accumulate, 12.69% of you need 2 more years to accumulate to reach your goals, which is great. And 14% of you need 5 more years to accumulate. So that's kind of the big nuggets of the survey. But there's more. So what I did was I looked at all the comments, and there was hundreds and hundreds of comments, and I distilled them down into the top 10 major concerns. First of all, financial stability and growth is probably the top concern. Many individuals are concerned about growing their investments and retirement funds, particularly through assets like Bitcoin, crypto, Tesla, MicroStrategy, bonds, Mexican CETs, etc. All sorts of assets that people are in. But some express worries about economic downturns, recessions, depressions, debasement, other stuff affecting their retirement plans. Second big thing was retirement age and timing. Several comments were concerned about retiring at the right time, whether it's waiting for a specific age or accumulating enough wealth to retire. And there's a desire to accelerate retirement plans and get out of the rat race as quickly as possible, stemming from dissatisfaction with current jobs or employers. Third big topic was big losses and hits. For example, a big medical situation that costs a lot of money, or a scam that makes you lose a lot of money. And we all know about a lot of those, but a number of individuals have mentioned past losses in the market have set them back, and how can they recover through investment and other trading strategies. And that's a big part of what we do here on the channel. Then passive income and financial strategies. Many express an interest in passive income during retirement through staking, dividend stocks, rental properties, and other investments. And that is also so important. Then another big one that I stressed at the beginning, healthcare and living expenses. Some, some individuals mentioned healthcare expenses were killing them, and the rising cost of living as factors influencing their retirement plans. That's a big, big issue. Also, number 6, lack of preparation. There was a bunch of comments, people feeling regret or concern about not planning, about not starting earlier, about not saving, about going on expensive vacations and blowing a whole bunch of money that could have bought Bitcoin instead. So there was a bit of that regret there too, but now people are wiser, and I hope everybody else can learn from these comments because it's such a wealth of information. Then global economic factors. People are worried about global economic trends, exchange rates, inflation, retirement plans, especially those who want to retire in different countries. How can they fathom what those countries would be like in 5 years or 10 years? And then uncertain retirement savings requirements. People not sure how much they need, what it takes to be comfortable, how much they need to allocate for medical, housing, all that type of stuff. And then government programs, Social Security, government pensions. Many are concerned that these things will run out of money. They will not be able to give enough for people to live on that they expect. And then finally, family and legacy. This is an interesting one too, because it cuts both ways. Some individuals were concerned about providing for their family members, especially adult children, and their families. So this one has 2 angles, which again was a bit of a learning for me. There were people, many comments said, I'm fine. Me and my wife are fine, or my wife and my husband are fine. But what I'm concerned about is our kids. They're not fine. They're not going to be able to afford a house. They're not going to be able to make it. They're not going to be able to save anything. And that was a huge concern. And then for some, we're concerned about having to take care of their parents too. So it's like, no matter which way you cut it or however you approach it, nobody has enough. The young people don't have enough to support their parents. The parents don't have enough to support the young people. And the situation is, I think, probably not going to get better, to give you a dose of hard reality. Now, more statistics. I did warn you, this doesn't exist anywhere in the world. So each day that goes by, fewer expect to reach goals. This is from the Charles Schwab annual survey. And it supports what I see. It supports what I've been saying. And things get worse by the year. Take this data point. In 2021, 53% of people felt very likely to hit their savings goals for retirement. 2 years later, it's 37%. That move in 2 years is staggering. And again, like everything else, it's probably going to get worse. And a big part of it is the ravaging by inflation. In addition, tying into some of the other concerns that I mentioned, this is also interesting. To stress again, and you've heard me say this 1,000 times, health is wealth, health is wealth. Health is the number one concern for everybody. Caregiving tied to health, cost of health. But in a twist, again, the young are worried about their elders, and the elders are worried about the young not having enough to make it. And then caregiving, etc. So health is wealth. Do everything you can to maintain that. That's what the survey says. In addition, how much retirees expect in retirement. This was kind of interesting. And again, in more stark news here, 67% of them, I believe, are dreaming. So about 1/3 believe, 9%, sorry, believe they'll be able to take home 1/3 of their take-home pay. So if they're earning 100 grand now, they'll be able to take home 33,000 a year when they're retired. That's kind of the idea behind this. And then 24% believe they'll be able to take about half of their take-home pay back. I think these first two are realistic. But when people expect to be able to take back 2/3 of their take-home pay, 38%, or the same as take-home pay, 23%, or more than take-home pay, 6%, blunt reality, ladies and gentlemen, you're dreaming. That's not going to happen. So more than 2/3 of you are just thinking or dreaming about some type of reality that's not going to happen. Again, my job is to shock you into building a plan. Next, it's time to plan. So it's funny how the story starts and ends. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things. One, show you typical returns from different asset classes, and then talk about some ways in which maybe people can escape. So first of all, US Treasury bonds typically got 4.3%, but over the last 2 years, they lost about 18%. So that's dead. Stocks on average get 8%, but if you pick the right stocks, it can be life-changing. If you get into a good stock early, take a Tesla or an Nvidia or a Meta or a Google or Microsoft or things like that. They can be very stunning. And remember the names? Remember that example I gave you? I think it was the Myers. Owning Home Depot since $3 for 20 years. Life-changing. Real estate, expected returns 10% after expenses. If you make a cash flow, you can make that happen. Private equity, 15%, but most people don't invest in that. Venture capital, 25%. Now, is there an asset class that does better than these guys? That's the question. Let's see. So first of all, let's talk about Bitcoin, because it is, I believe, a very solid asymmetric bet, despite the fact that Bitcoin is tanking. Bitcoin, let me see, real time, it fell to 26,300. And is it bouncing? Nope, it's still going down. So something's happening. I think somebody's dumping Mt. Gox, government, whatever. But I know a lot of people have been waiting for 25K like myself to buy more. So anyway, we shall see. And this is also, I don't want to sound whatever, but this is why kind of we move to cash. August, September are always crappy months. That's when you go shopping. So anyway, the plan is working. And that's what this is all about. We're talking about planning here. So if you look at Bitcoin diminishing compound annual growth rates, it's still great. So 13 years ago, the CAGR was 174%, 2012 having 108%, 2016 having 71%, and 2020 having 45%. Now, the question is, what will the next CAGR be? And will it beat venture capital? By the way, over the last 2 years, if you invested in a venture capital fund, you made nothing. You probably lost money. And that's the other harsh reality. So let's look at modeling and price targets. And this is from the Retire On cocktail. And I'm just going to talk about low bearish expectations for one or two assets in this. But the idea is to think about where a certain asset could potentially go. But remember, Bitcoin may not exist 5 or 10 years from now. Tesla may not exist 5 or 10 years from now. Solana may not exist 5 or 10 years from now. Ethereum may not exist. MicroStrategy may not exist. So always, I have to stress that, allocate accordingly. So let's go and talk about a couple of things. One, 2024 halving is coming up. We looked at all the other CAGRs, 45% in the last round. Is 25% compound annual growth rate possible from a $30,000 base, $25,000 base where we are now? And the answer is, can Bitcoin hit 100K or more? Well, per Jesse and his great Substack, this is his Bitcoin cycle. And he talks about Bitcoin this cycle. Easily $120K to $240,000 theoretically possible. And that's just per tradition and history. And if that is the case, then that 25% compound annual growth rate is there. And that means for many, Bitcoin will be that life raft to help them achieve their retirement goals. one of many that are out there. So what I did is I put together a little example of a game plan that people can plan towards, and tied in some of the information that I covered already so far in this story with people's examples and bag sizes and everything else. What would it take right now to build, say, a $5 million bag in one asset? Of course, you don't want to be in one asset. Can't stress that enough, but you can just look at my retirement cocktail video. I'll add it here after. It shows you how you can break it out. But here, using my bare expectation of Bitcoin going to $331,607 in the year 2032, to build $1 million retirement bag, you need 3.02 Bitcoin, assuming the price is 26,300. By the way, the beauty of this sheet is it pre-populates automatically the real-time price and does all the calculations. So this sheet is as of August 17th, 3:41 p.m. Pacific time in the United States. If you want a $2 million bag, you need 6 Bitcoin, $3 million bag, 9, etc. $5 million bag, 15 Bitcoin. But if you want to do it with a combination of things, or don't go all in on Tesla, don't go all in on Bitcoin. That's why I like to pick a combination cocktail. And given the Tesla price is $220 now, it was $300 a few weeks ago. It's funny how things change so fast in this market. But you would need, for $1 million bag, about 373 shares of Tesla. If you want a $5 million bag, you need 1,864 shares. So go back and see how many you have, and we'll see. Now, the cost of these bags today, $1 million bag will cost you $79,000, and a $1 million bag of Tesla will cost you $82,000. So it's funny, Bitcoin's actually cheaper than Tesla, because I believe Bitcoin could outperform in my bear case, but they're very, very close in my bear case scenario for both. $2 million bag would cost you $158K in Bitcoin and $164,000 in Tesla. And a $5 million bag would cost you $396,000 in Bitcoin today and $410,000 in Tesla. By the way, if you were buying the $5 million bag a few days ago, when Bitcoin was about 29,300, it would have cost you a lot more. So that's just how things kind of work. Now, to stress one last time, allocation is key. Keep your tap dancing shoes on. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. The whole world could disintegrate, and then this doesn't matter at all. I'm doing this for nothing. But remember, there's always a chance that things can go to zero. So allocate accordingly. It's like, I love that thing when you throw a dart and you're right on target, but it hits the wire and it bounces off. Plan for that, everybody. Can't stress that enough. And I'll be doing a lot more of these retirement series because the community is hungry for it and people need planning. So one of the ideas will be, can you retire in $1 million? What does it take to retire in certain countries, stat rank countries across money like I do? We have a model for that too. So a lot more stuff, but drop your suggestions below as to what you need, what you're missing, and how we can all escape it. I wish I had a magic button to solve the healthcare cost issue, but that will be, it's probably the biggest thing to fall out of this, and how much, the longer you're in retirement, how much more you need and how much more exponentially it goes up. So, wow, lost my throat, lost my voice. That was 40 minutes and a lot of material. Again, it's a different type of video, but I couldn't find anything out there with tons of real-time data and tons of nuggets that you can all use in preparation. So smash the like on the way out. This is lots of hours of work, but appreciate everybody. And thank you to everybody, all those over 7,000 participants. By the way, we did have a poll, and if I can see it, when it comes to retirement, 47% of you don't have a goal. 41% of you have a detailed goal. You've probably been in this channel for a long time, and that's why you have a really good plan. 5% are retired and planned well, and 5% are retired and didn't plan well. And we had over 1,100 votes on that. So thank you for everybody. This is all helpful for us to build stuff that really helps you in your financial journey. So thank you everybody for being here. Thank you to mods in chat. Sorry for being late. It took so long to pull everything together, and this is a work in progress for a long time. So good night, everybody. Stay healthy. See you tomorrow.